They're rowdy tonight. We're going to have to control.
All right, good evening out there. It's 6:30. I am calling the meeting to order for June 11th, 2026. Let's see, let the record show we have 4 directors present and Dan Ruby is on Zoom. So all 5 accounted for. Oh my God, the land acknowledgement. I don't have it printed out. Does anybody have it in front of them? I have no students here tonight.
Okay. Yes.
We acknowledge that the sacred land that we live and learn on today belongs to the Tacoma, Shasta, Modoc, Klamath, and Umpqua peoples. We honor and acknowledge the traditional owners of the land we now call the United States. We recognize the Native American people's continuing connection to land, place, waters, and community. We pay our respects to their cultures, country, and elders, past, present, and emerging.
Okay, thank you, Russell. All right, so next up we have the adoption of agenda. So I will take a motion to approve the agenda as submitted unless anybody has any requests.
I move that we approve the agenda.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Dan. Okay. We don't move on to the consent agenda. Okay, so next we are having a budget hearing for the 2026-2027 Ashland School District budget, and we are opening this to receive public comment. Do we have any comment? No? Okay. So I believe that's the only thing we need to do. Other than that, we are then closing the budget hearing since we have already discussed and approved the budget in the budget committee. And so I will now take a resolution to adopt the 2026-2027 budget.
You want, okay. I move that we adopt the 26-27 budget as a,
Second?
All in favor? Oh, wait.
Can you
Joseph
do a roll
has
call
it.
vote for the budget?
Oh, we'll do a roll call vote. Okay. Deltra, I'll have you go first.
yes.
Russell?
Yes.
Jordan?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
And I also am a yes. Okay, so a unanimous vote to approve the budget as submitted. All right, now we move on to the consent agenda. So I will take, again, a motion to approve the consent agenda unless anybody would like to pull anything.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Look at that, we're on the second page already. Okay, so next up we have our finance report, and we have Sherry here in person with us. We are on a mission tonight, apparently.
Look at that, fancy. All right, I'm going to start with the revenue page. And nothing, again, dramatic on that. I did make the notes about the catch-up 24-25 payment that we got from ODE. There was about, got to put my glasses on, 68,000 in general fund, or 88,000 total. 62,000 was for the general fund, and then 25,619 was for the high-cost disability. And as I had mentioned before, that came in less than what we thought, but at least it wasn't a negative, so that was good. And then that's just the detail on the revenue. And then on the expenditure side, I have a little bit longer of an explanation, so I'm just going to read that. So as we get closer to the end of June, I'm keeping my eye on the appropriations as well as those year-end adjustments that I'll need to make. I will make the final adjustments to move IDEA expense once June payroll has been processed and I know an exact amount of expense that needs to be moved. Currently projecting our ending fund balance at $3.265 million or 7.45%. I'm monitoring food service expense as it appears we're going to end the year with a positive fund balance, which I thought was great, that Christina has done a great job with that. But it looks like our appropriations might be going over a little bit, so I'm going to watch that. On the budget transfer for food service, I might not make the full $500,000 transfer because you can only keep a certain amount of fund balance in your food service fund. And so I'm going to wait until we get payroll done, and then I'll see, what their ending fund balance looks like, and then I'll see what I need to do as far as making a fund transfer for that one. And then, so I'll know that after all the expenditures have been posted at the end of the month, and if that is the case, I'll move that amount of expense to the general fund if we have an appropriation issue. Also monitoring Fund 252, High School Success, as it is projected that we are not going to spend down that fund completely, and if that is the case, then I'll be looking to move some expense out of the general fund into Fund 252 because we have to spend that fund down fully. There are a lot of moving pieces at the end of the year, so I'm keeping a daily tally on expenditures so that I can be prepared to make adjustments in early July. And then once payroll is posted, because that's the big expense, and so payroll will post around the 22nd, 23rd of June, and so I'll have a better idea. And so if I can, I'll make the adjustments prior to the end of June. The auditors want to do an interim audit the first week of July, the week of the 6th, and then they want to start their field work the end of August. So it's pushing me on getting things reconciled and done. So if I can move a little bit quicker on that, I will. And then that's just our function detail. I highlighted a couple of them on here in our Fund 105. It looks like we might go over appropriation. I don't think we will because this is including the encumbrances that are out there. So again, I'll wait until we get to the end of the month and see where we're at. Fund 105 does roll up into Fund 100, and so we wouldn't get an appropriation violation for that because it just rolls up into the total Fund 100, so not quite as critical. And then the same thing that I mentioned in food service, it looks like we might be going over a little bit in appropriation, so I'll watch that. So once we get done and all the encumbrances are cleared, there probably won't be an overage, but if there is, I can make an adjustment. And then on our special revenue, again, nothing unusual out there other than, like I mentioned, Fund 252, looking like we might not use that up completely, so I'll make some adjustments if we don't. And then just watching all of them to make sure that we have complied with what ODE wants us to do on each of the funds where they want us to spend them down completely. And so once I get all the expenditures in, then I can see and then I can make adjustments and move expenditures once I know where we're at completely. So that's my finance report.
Sherry, I just had I just have a process question because I'm
Yeah.
used to the municipal budgeting. For any of these potential funds that may be overexpended or over appropriations, would you require board resolution? Or do they all fit within the budget that was adopted?
No, the only time I'll need a board resolution is if we didn't have any appropriation room in the function that they were in.
What they rolled up to?
Yeah, and
Okay.
so, like for food service, if that's over appropriation, I would, and if it truly is over, I would have to move some of that expense to the general fund, and then it would just fit within the general fund budget.
Okay.
But if we were in the general fund and we were going over appropriation totally like in the major fund 1,000 or 2,000 or any of them, then yes, I would need a resolution to move something out of contingency to rectify that. But I'm not seeing that at all. I
Okay.
don't see that as an issue at all.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, so Sherry, I'm just looking at the expenses, and I'm looking at insurance, and seeing that there's an amount there. And my question, I think, is that amount, that 4,134,000, et cetera, is that going to be completed this year, or is it going to push into next year because you're finishing out the I know there's a transition, so just
Right.
talk about that and just,
Right,
yeah.
so we'll finish out this school year, and so
Okay.
we'll have the expenses through June for this current school year. And then because we don't move to OEBB until October, we'll have self-funded expense for
Right.
July through September.
Okay.
And so in the 26-27 budget, I budgeted the premiums for those 3 months at the self-funded rate. And then for the remaining 9 months, I budgeted them at the OEBB rate with some cushion in there. So I added 10% to the OEBB rates just because they weren't completely settled when we were putting the budget together.
Okay.
So yes, there will be some run out, and so that the fund 600 will stay viable forever because we'll just roll over from the self-funded plan to OEBB, and so the amount of premium that is contributed out of each of our paychecks and that the district puts in for each employee, that will still go into Fund 600, and then we'll pay our OEBB premiums out of that.
Okay, that amount then just rolls forward into the
Yes.
next, okay,
Yep,
cool, thank you.
yep.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. You can finish.
Okay, I just have one more question, then I'll.
Okay.
What, so I see that it looks like purchase services are over budget, is that correct?
Yes.
What, in sort of real general term, it's not way over budget or anything, but in general terms, what is causing the overage?
Most of the overage for that is for our SLPA or SLP services. And then there's another medical, and I don't remember what it's called, but it's a service that we provide to the students that is charged to that $380, which is part of the purchase services. And so that's what that is.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
I just had a comment, which is that I'm impressed that our food service expense is coming in with a positive balance. And that's,
too.
That's
I don't think that's ever happened before.
absolutely, never seen that. It's always been the
Yeah.
other direction. So
I know, I was really happy
kudos to
see
good work done.
that they're coming in with a positive fund balance, so that was really good.
I'll just echo, I was excited to hear that because the narrative that I had always heard was that food service always loses money.
And it
Sorry,
doesn't,
disembodied voice.
yeah, and it doesn't always lose money. I mean, in grants past, we never ran in the red in our food service, and so, it's just whoever is your food service manager, them taking the time to really look at where their expenditures are, what their staffing costs are, what their food costs are, and Christina has done some really good work. She's been working with a gentleman out of the Willamette ESD who's been providing training to food service managers on how to really dig into their financials and look at where the pinch points are. And so she's done a lot of really good work this year, just looking at that, look at what her food costs have been, staffing costs and all of that. So I'm really proud of her. She's done good. All right, thank you.
All right, that's great. Thank you.
Sherry, thank you for that budget. Thank you for this budget that we're going into and your hard work around that. I really appreciate it. And I trust it. So good. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you, Sherry. Now we are moving on to our recurring reports, which looks like will also be very brief tonight. We do not have OSCA or AEA with us, and our student board representatives are done for the year. So we will then move on to board reports. Who would like to kick us off? Dan, do you want to do it since you're usually first in the lineup there?
Sure. It is so weird to only be a voice coming out of the speakers here. Busy month. I got to do the amazing race through Lithia Park with trails. We had our 2 budget committee meetings, work session. I got to observe 2 union bargaining sessions. Got to observe the first of the Transformation Steering Committee meetings. Met with the consultant with OSBA about governance and advisory committees, and attended a couple community events, the Albina Vision Trust thing with Joseph and the Youth Mentoring Summit with Deltra. And we all went to graduation, which was super cool. That's my favorite thing of the school year.
I can almost say ditto, but let's see. So I attended some bargaining, very interesting to watch. Can't wait to hear how that one landed. Picked up y'all signs. Yeah, I get something for that. I'm so proud of that. Good job, Jordan and Rod. Thank you. Yes. And Ashland. Geez, that number is just astonishing still. So I'm quite proud of that. Our city cares about our schools, and that is good. Attended the gathering for ASD retirees and new teachers, probationary graduates. Lots of young faces. That was kind of fun. That was on May 19th. The budget meetings, of course. And I attended the first Transformation Subcommittee meeting on May 26th. And I'm looking forward to that whole process. It's going to be quite a process. And it'll be thorough, and I love that. So I'm very happy about that. We did a work session. There was the Regional Youth Summit with Dan. That was very valuable, I thought, Dan. We got to hear, it was sponsored by Rogue Valley Mentoring, and we got to hear from young people about what their experiences have been in their various schools. And there's really no substitution for that, and I've been missing that. So very helpful. I'm going to share with my colleagues here in a work session what I discovered or what I heard, and I appreciate Rogue Valley Mentoring for organizing that. And then Willow Wind Stewards Day was delightful. 8th grade farewell, that took me back. That was crazy. And I enjoyed that. And then, of course, our high school graduation was just a splendid day, really splendid. I think the highlight for me was actually walking after the ceremony had completed, and everyone was bustling around and hugging and, and all that stuff that they do. And I walked away. I was walking up the hill toward my car, and you could hear the sounds of the families and the happiness and the summertime, and it was just lovely. And it reminded me about how glad I am that I'm here and that I have the pleasure and the privilege of working for this school district.
All right, thank you, Deltru. Let's see, gosh, I didn't feel like I did that much, but there were actually quite a few events. So, and most of them I think we shared. So I also went to the retirement and the probationary graduation party. That's always a fun event every year at Grizzly Peak Winery. And the budget committee meetings, which were interesting, and having done this for many years, I think it was actually a very, there's always a lot of interesting discussion, but it was, I think, a very positive experience overall. And certainly we're really so much more optimistic about the next year and the years to follow. So that was a nice change. Let's see. I went to the AHS 1 Act. So that's the special student-directed performance at the end of the year, and that was really amazing. And to see one of them was actually written as well as produced and acted by one of our students. So that was really fun to see. Another one, all student-directed. And then there were a number of also videos that had been done in the video processing class. So that was really, it was really a really great evening. The bargaining, likewise, having again done this for many years, it just had such a more collegial feel this year. And I was lucky to be the one who was able to attend the final session where we did finally reach an agreement. And so that was really nice to see. And I truly, for the first time, I felt like this was two parties working together to reach something that worked for everybody. So kudos to everybody. Kudos to Dr. Hetrick, who has really, I think, significantly changed the atmosphere in those meetings. So thank you for that. And I think our staff also are very impressed and grateful for what has happened. And let's see, I guess then the last thing was the graduation, which we went to, which, as you said, was really just, it's always such a special experience, but particularly nice this year. Maybe it was just the perfect weather, not too hot, not too crazy, but anyway, very nice evening. So I'm grateful to be able to do that as well.
Perfect. Well, hello, everyone. It has been a month of cleanup post y'all, and 100% agree, Deltra. I am so proud to live in Ashland and the level of support that they clearly show our schools. But if anyone has free time and wants to put away signs, they are more than welcome to come over. Also was able to attend the beginning of the Transformation Committee meeting. What an incredible group of people, and I'm really looking forward to the input and feedback that they work together on creating. And I was not able to attend graduation, but I was able to witness our park staff especially getting ready to make the place look good for the event, and the energy was even infectious then. And downtown is now officially summer. The number of students walking around, having their boba teas and enjoying the day just reminds me of one of my favorite seasons in Ashland. And then tomorrow night, I am getting to attend the concert of an Ashland alum who is performing at our Mountain Theater, her own show, as she's taken a breather from Broadway. So yeah, I'm very excited.
All right. It has been a very full end of the year. Even some of the things that you're all mentioning, I'm like, wait, that happened this month? I want to just take a moment to talk briefly about the budget. I know we all mentioned it, but I just want, for those of you who don't want to sit through watching the videos of the budget committee meetings or dive through the budget, in a nutshell, we've had the privilege as board members to have a budget that is perfectly accurate and very, very carefully built this year. There's been no issues with needing reappropriations, and it was built with care and a conservative lens so that there was ample funds to cover our needs, and we were prepared for any unexpected emergencies that came up. It's been a real pleasure as a board member to sit here and know that we're in good hands there. And our next budget is built with that same lens and care. And so I'm just kudos to the people who are doing the work, Sherry in particular. Moving on from that, there were so many things. There was the land stewards thing was really neat, like going and seeing all the work that they've done at Willow Wind over the year. These students, they learned about controlled burns, they worked with the fire department, they worked with people planting native seeds. It's a project that's going to continue into the next year. It's really incredible what they've done, and that they went and led us around the land and did all the presentation themselves, also spoke well to how comfortable they were. Went to the 5th grade track meet. That's always cute and adorable, and also like they work so hard. Celebration of learning at Willow Wind, which is like the middle school graduation. So watching those 8th graders get celebrated and get ready to move into high school. Random things. I went to a juggling show there. Little kids doing juggling, very cute. Dance performance, bike-a-thon. Had the privilege of volunteering with some other parents and building a giant pergola structure. That's still in process, so hopefully that'll be done before the end of the summer. And then, of course, graduation. I do take a great deal of joy in watching all of those kids get celebrated for all their hard work. That's it.
All right, thank you, Russell. Okay, so that's the end of board reports, and then we will move on to superintendent report. Dr. Hetrick.
All right, thank you. It's nice to take a deep, oh, wait, did we start with Dan? We did start with Dan, okay, good. A sigh of relief after what felt like a marathon of, I think it was 2 full weeks of evening events. Since we last met, there have been many bargaining sessions, but happy to announce that we concluded and have a tentative agreement for a 3-year contract with our licensed union that we will bring the agreement to the board at our July meeting. We also had the retirement celebration. We honored 11 retirees at the celebration who collectively represented 226 years of service in education. Led our first Transformation Steering Committee meeting, which I'll talk a little bit about shortly. Attended one of Trail's capstone presentation sessions. Attended 3 of our school's graduation promotion celebrations. Attended the high school ceremony celebrating 221 graduates at Lithia Park. And the cool thing about that, even though when we look at the data that's reported on the dashboard, we had 221 seniors start the school year this year. When we look at the dashboard, it reflects the 9th graders that started with us that may have transferred out, but we had 221 graduates or seniors start this school year that graduated this year. So that's remarkable. Attended our district leadership team retreat all day today. It's a great way to kind of wrap up the year, do some reflections, goal setting for next year, and a lot of training. I'll be attending the Coalition of Oregon School Administrators Seaside Conference next week. I'll be completing all of our principal annual evaluations the week of June 22nd, and that will also be April Harrison's last week with the Ashland School District, and then she sets off to become the superintendent of Rogue River School District. So congratulations, bon voyage. See you later. Thank you for everything. Yes. She said that she's been watching me, and she just said it looks easy and fun, so why not? So we'll see ya. And then the transformation update. So the biggest update is that we had our first TSC meeting on May 26th. As was mentioned, incredible group of individuals that signed up and were selected. Total makeup of the committee is 38 members plus 2 honorary members. During that first meeting, we heard some interest to continue to just refine the definition of the committee. And so I want to read a version of a purpose statement. And I say a version because it's probably going to continue to just develop over time. But this is the current version. The Transformation Steering Committee exists to advise the superintendent on the development of a comprehensive transformation plan that positions the Ashland School District for long-term educational excellence, financial sustainability, and responsible stewardship of community resources. The committee will examine current district structures, programs, facilities, enrollment trends, and operational systems while considering the future needs of students, families, staff, and the broader community. Through a structured and community-informed process, the committee will help develop and evaluate a scenario for the district's future. Scenarios may include, but are not limited to, school consolidation, school mergers, grade level reconfiguration, facility repurposing, program redesign and development, innovative instructional models, operational efficiencies, and other transformative approaches that strengthen student outcomes while aligning with enrollment and financial realities. The committee's goal is not to advocate for any predetermined outcome, but rather to thoughtfully explore all viable options and provide recommendations that best support students and ensure the district's long-term success. Ultimately, the TSC seeks to help create a district model that's innovative, student-centered, fiscally responsible, and sustainable. One that honors Ashland's values while serving as a model of forward-thinking educational excellence for districts across Oregon and beyond. So again, it was a great meeting, and I'm just going to kind of cover what was on the agenda, and we covered most of it. So first week, the first part of the meeting was really talking about why we were there. So understanding the transformation process, the 24-25 financial issues, which was phase 1, the phase 2 interventions, and then how we determined the process, the JOG approach. So we covered all of that, and then the 16-month process timeline of the transformation process itself. Then we talked about the role of the Transformation Steering Committee, both what it is and what it's not. Then we had presentations from our cabinet members. So we really looked at some data that's still not fully on our website, but will be at some point once the surveys have been completed. So we looked at financial context, enrollment trends, facilities overview, so usage reports, staffing and programming, And we started to look at themes that have been gathered through prior surveys, so leadership and staff surveys. We ran out of time to really dig into that, so that'll be one of the topics for our next meetings. And then since the meeting, we have set dates for the next 5 meetings that will occur over the summer. And as hopefully you all are aware, we sent out the community survey, and we're asking everybody to help spread the word. So it's available through our website, Facebook, and was sent to all families through ThrillShare. Honestly, the goal is to get every Ashland resident to complete this survey, if possible. It'll be open until midnight on June 28th. And as a reminder, materials are maintained on our transformation web pages. It's on the district webpage and every school's webpage. There's a button just below, I don't know, the rolling picture, and it says transformation. All of the materials are there. And with that, happy summer, everybody. Happy to answer any questions and feedback from those of you that also attended the transformation sessions. Thank you.
I understand you secured some funding for the process, for the ongoing process. True or false?
Kind of.
Kind of.
So what you're referring to, I think, is
It was just what was in your email.
refreshments.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. So that was already in one of our grants
Oh, I see.
for superintendent advisory councils.
Okay.
And so we're going to be utilizing those funds for refreshments, since those meetings really eat up people's, pardon the pun,
Yes.
dinner hour.
Good.
Yeah, but I'm still waiting to hear on another grant that I wrote for facilitation
For
support.
facilitation. Okay. Thank you. No grumpy people.
All right. Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Dan? All good? Okay. All right. Then we will move on to public comment. No public comment that I'm aware of. Okay. Thank you. And so then we are moving on to new business. So we have action item 2026-28 classified wage MOU, and Michelle Cuddeback will be presenting that.
All right. We came back to the table with our classified union this year, basically just to negotiate compensation. So that was the only article that we were looking at. And this MOU reflects the agreements, the tentative agreements that we came to with that group. And you'll see some targeted wage changes for select groups. The first bullet, food service worker to secretary 1 wage range. Food service worker is our lowest salary range, and so we wanted to have a targeted increase. We've had quite a bit of turnover, and like all of our positions, it's a critical position to be able to have enough staff in the kitchens to serve our students, and so we wanted to do a targeted increase there to try to recruit and retain and to provide a little higher wage for that group. In addition, they will also get the COLA that we negotiated for everyone, which is 3% over the next 2 years. The second bullet and the third bullet, in the salary schedule, we discovered that there were a few groups that had an interesting thing happening with their wages, where there are 8 steps on the salary schedule. And for certain groups, I think it was the second bullet there, they would start out lower than the educational assistant step, but then as you got to step 6, it flipped and they would end higher. So there was something going on with those few positions that was kind of out of whack, as they say. So we wanted to rectify that. So that's what the second and third bullet was. Didn't seem to make sense that you would start one position higher and end lower than another position. So we fixed that. That's what those two bullets are. And we went with the higher of the two, so no one would see a pay decrease, right? So we went with the higher of the two lines. Additionally, the cafeteria managers, that is, I don't know if you can see my cursor right here. Our cafeteria managers have different jobs depending on the level. So elementary cafeteria managers have one other kitchen staff with them in the cafeterias, and our middle school and high school have quite a few other food service staff that they oversee and they manage, and they serve quite a bit more meals. And so what we entered into is a tiered plan. So now we have elementary cafeteria managers are staying on one line, and we have increased the wages for the high school and the middle school cafeteria managers to reflect those added responsibilities and the volume that they serve and that they're responsible for. And so you'll see that change there. Then we have a 3%, as I mentioned, for the next 2 years. We also rolled this contract, so we did a 1-year extension so that we would not be negotiating during transformation process this next year. So this is, in essence, a 2-year agreement here. Yeah. So we rolled the whole contract. So we will come back to the table in at the end of 2028. We just wanted to explain it since it was a little nuanced in some of the changes that were made.
Michelle, has this already been voted on by the union?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, great.
I just have a couple of questions, not even necessarily related to this, which is all fine. But I know we always try to be equivalent between our two groups, our two unions. And since we now have a 3-year contract with AEA for that 3% increase, does that then essentially mean that this will also be 3 years at 3%? Or do we just...
That's to be determined for that 3rd year. We have 3% for the next 2, and then we will.
Okay, so
come
it
back
could potentially
for
be
the whole
different.
contract will be reopened in that negotiation.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then similarly, I know we went back and changed our health insurance level as a fixed rate rather than a percentage for AEA. Is that correct?
It's still a percentage for employees groups as far as the percentage of the premium that they pay out of pocket.
Right.
What we have added is an opt-out option now, which is a fixed rate. So maybe that's what you're
Okay.
thinking of. Yes. So for our classified, that was $200 previously. Our certified did not have an opt-out option previously. And we have a separate MOU we're working on for insurance, I think.
Okay, so that is still to
So
come.
that would be 400. That's what the tentative agreement is with the certified union, is a 400 opt-out, and we've offered that to classified as
same.
well. So it'll be the
Okay,
same.
perfect. All right, thank you.
Trying to do everything as the same
Yes,
as possible.
exactly.
Yes.
We want to make sure that everybody's getting a fair and equivalent agreement. Okay.
And another change
Yeah.
for the classified insurance, previously or currently, depending on how you look at it, the opt-out was not available to members who may be covered under our insurance by a spouse. So so that is no longer. So it will be open to everybody.
Michelle, just out of curiosity, what percentage increase do classified get at each step?
It varies depending on the step.
Okay.
I think over the years, when we'd have targeted increases, $1 here, $1 there, that has thrown off those steps. So depending from my memory, it could be anywhere from 2.4 to 3.7 maybe. So it really depends on where they are on the salary schedule. That's a bigger project we are hoping to take on in the next round and shore that up so it's the same across.
Okay.
That's a great question because in either of the contracts, it's important to note that we're talking about both the cost of living increase and a step. And so a classified employee will see anywhere between a 5.7 and a 6 point, whatever you said, increase next year. based on that. So it's a combination of the two.
But that's not currently equivalent with AEA steps?
No, some of them are and some of them aren't.
Okay,
It's a very unique salary schedule, I think.
thank you.
Yeah.
I'm ready to make a motion.
Yep.
Jim McCrutch, great. Do I say that? And my computer locked. So I'm going to say I move to approve the memorandum of understanding between Ashland School District Number 5 and the Oregon School Employees Association, Ashland Chapter 42.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Voting voice again.
Okay. Thank you, Michelle. A lot of work went into that. Okay, next up, we have another action item for Resolution 2025-2026 B6 iPad lease. So Steve Mitchell is going to explain to us what that is.
Okay, good evening. So this is something we've been working on for quite a while. As we worked our way through the pandemic and came out of the pandemic, we made a choice to use the iPad as the device of choice for kindergarten through third grade specifically, and then for some of fourth and fifth grade as we transitioned to laptops, and then there's a lot of oh, sorry, I didn't even see that. A lot of, incidental usages, science, art through the rest of the grade levels. So we've been really working to try and get some sort of a replacement cycle that makes it easier for us to manage our devices, not only from the device perspective, but just from asset management, planning perspective. This particular lease, this purchase amount is not a one-time purchase. This is going to be paid over 4 years. So this is a 4-year lease. So you take the $380,000 divided by 4. I think it's about $82,000 and change per year. Well within our our tech hardware budget. This will come alongside and be adjacent to our laptop lease, where we have 750 laptops that are currently on lease, and that will still leave about 30% of our hardware budget open and available for other infrastructure needs, data center needs, and other devices. So we're just trying to get a little more organized and able to plan. This allows us to replace them every 4 years and keep them current. Our current fleet has about 400 devices that are about to age out and will no longer be able to be updated. This will also allow us to keep somewhat of a resale price. We can actually turn these things in at the end of the term, and they'll give us anywhere from $40 to $80 per device to move towards the new lease as we turn them in and turn them over. But it also allows us to make sure that none of our iPads are over 4 years old. So we're hoping to get this resolution passed just so we can get these things ordered and get all of our old devices in and recycled this summer, and all these new devices deployed for the coming school year.
Dee, will you clarify, our current laptops were purchased outright?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. None of our iPads are under lease right now. Okay. So this is a new approach for us on the tablets. But we've had such success with the laptop leases, and we've been really able to keep our student fleet in particular refreshed and up to date and current.
Great.
Yeah.
And are the laptops and iPads for students, are those take-homes or are those all facility-based?
There are some incidences where we will check them out to a student for specific accommodations, but generally they stay on campus and they're locked into labs and move around where they need to be deployed. I think elementary K-3, a lot of them have the lab sets of iPads in the classroom. They don't leave the classroom, but they don't go home with the students.
Yeah. And then my last question, just process questions. I'm learning school board stuff. Is this coming before the board because of dollar amount or because leases have to come before? It's
a dollar amount, yeah.
It's
the dollar amount, yeah. And honestly, the leasing agent asked and required us to have board approval. So everybody's just checking the boxes to make sure we're all doing it appropriately.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we're moving to this model.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just curious, so you said we have 400 of the purchased ones that are aging out. How many total would be in this lease?
This is 750.
750.
Yeah. We have just over 800 devices, iPads in our fleet right now. And about half of those are about to age out. So we're
Okay.
replacing 750 to get all of our devices on the same replacement cycle, essentially.
Okay, so, and that just ensures that at least every 4 years we'd be getting a new one. Okay, and just cost-wise, is this fairly equivalent to what we would end up spending anyway?
Yes, you will pay interest on a lease, obviously, but we negotiated a 0.96, Sherry, correct me if I'm wrong, 0.96%. So it's less than 1% interest on this. There was the deal that brought us to the table was 0% interest, but there are some tariffs and some other things that got in the way, and so they stopped that and said we can't do that anymore. So we had to negotiate. So we negotiated a 0.96% interest rate, which is still pretty good. Yeah.
And this locks in the price for those 4 years?
Yeah, they're already ordered. So yeah, they're ordered and ready to ship. We just have to get this approval in tonight, finalize the paperwork, and then they'll be on their way.
And I'd say on the city side, I know we're seeing a huge increase in the cost of hardware, so I'm glad you guys have it locked in.
And these include covers as well. And we have some keyboards that we deploy as needed. So it's comparable in answer to your question. We'll pay that 0.96% interest over the course of the 4 years, but it's well within our budget, our tech hardware budget. And like I said, still leaves us about 30%, which is about $80,000 per year to spend on other items in tech hardware.
And just out of curiosity, does this include like a service agreement for the lease, or is it? Yeah.
Yep.
Which probably wouldn't be the case if they were purchased, or? would it be
If you want to
similar?
pay for it, yeah. You get
Yeah.
the 1 year out of the box, and then you have to pay beyond that. Yeah.
Okay, great, all right.
Seems like a very reasonable price per device. So, yeah, I'm in favor.
I'm ready to make a motion. All right, I'm moving us along. I move to adopt resolution number 2025-26B6 iPad lease.
And a second.
All in favor?
Thank you. And then just one last thing. I want to give Tucker Bacon his due credit on this. He ran point on this project for the last several months and was really the reason we were able to procure that final interest rate as we did. He played hardball with him, and then it was fun to watch him navigate, negotiate that. So yeah, he ran point on it. So I'm just here to deliver the message. He did all the work. So.
All right, thank you, Steve. Wow, this may be a record. 7:17. Okay, I believe that brings us to announcements and appointments. So there will be no work session in June. The next regular session meeting will be held Thursday, July 9th, 2026 at 6:30 p.m. here in City Council chambers. And with that, we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.